We come to some of the social factors that influence the stress response. Remember the stress response, okay? Not stress, the stress response. That's really important. So sometimes our relationships or lack of relationships, lack of social skills, lack of support, being bullied, discrimination, a whole bunch of things can impact on the social factors that influence our stress response. So we have social readjustment, the amount of change in lifestyle after a person makes a specific event. Sorry about that. Large changes can cause stress in various amounts. Depends on the person's perception and circumstances. Okay, so for some people, having a child is the best thing ever. Great stressor. For some people, having a child is horrible and they're not ready for it and they haven't planned for it and their relationship's not solid enough, and then it becomes a massive distress. Okay. We did this in class where there are 43 life events. This is Holmes and Rash's social readjustment rating scale. People who reached over 200 life change units within 12 months are more prone to physical and psychological stress-related illnesses. Basically, these two guys said, if you can tick off 200 points worth of things from this list, your life's pretty stressful. Doesn't always make it bad, just means that it's stressful. There are cultural factors that influence our response to stress, whether you're an immigrant or a refugee or asylum seeker. What we call acculturation means adapting the values, customs, and language of a new culture. Sometimes language difficulties can stop people doing this. Sometimes prejudice and racism from the in-group can cause this break or this stressor. Okay? And also if the refugee or someone like that has had seen horrible events, then you might have post-traumatic stress disorder, which you would find in the DSM-4. And you can see there that there is a strong link, established link between depression, psychological distress, and anxiety if you have these racism-related stresses. Okay? That's established in research. There are also environmental factors. One we call crowding, loud noises, air pollution, temperature and disasters. Crowding is the feeling of being cramped or not having enough space. Sometimes people get really uncomfortable about this. In your textbook, it looks at the personal space issue. Okay, we were talking about that with in class, where you guys were quite happy to be close to each other. But if you go to a bus stop or you go and wait in line somewhere, sometimes it gets a bit too full on. Okay, and that can cause you stress. Personal space is a big issue there. Research tells us that you are happy to be 50 centimeters or closer with your loved ones. You're more than comfortable being between 50 and 150 centimeters with your good friends, and you want to be at least 150 centimeters away from strangers. So if you're stuck on a bus or a train, sometimes those things can be a bit full on, a bit packed, and cause people a bit of stress. Kind of like that. All right, how do we know about this? Well, Calhoun's research told us that this is in your textbook. This is mice in a couple of different enclosures. First of all, they were quite comfortable. The population doubled every 55 days. Eventually, the mice started to turn on each other. At the start, they were comfortable. Then as the population got bigger and bigger and bigger, they started to turn, and some people even became cannibalistic. Sounds like a bad horror movie. Calhoun's research, check it out in your textbook. Pretty easy to understand. Right, you can see it there. Once they became too big, once it became too crowded, they were aggressive and cannibalistic. Okay, and he concluded that the stress response to overcrowding resulted in a breakdown of normal social behavior. Okay. Now, of course, we know that not all stress is caused by overcrowding, but if you do have overcrowding, then that can be quite the stressor. This brings us to homeostasis. I know the video is going a long time, but we need to get through this. Physiological stability is maintained by keeping the body conditions constant. This is homeostasis. You will not be examined on this, but it's interesting to note this. This is the body changing to keep your body at the same level. Okay? So, for example, if glucose levels rise, then insulin is released to restore the body to normal temperature. We did a bit of work on this. If you get too hot, then you sweat and you shiver to cool you down. That brings us to allostasis. This is connected to stress. Okay? Allostasis is the body's ability to maintain physiological stability by changing to meet the internal and external demands. So basically, homeostasis tries to keep the body at level 0 all the time. Okay? Allostasis says if we need to operate at 50, then let's get all of our systems working together so we can operate at 50. Okay? So it gets your body ready to meet the stressor. Allostatic system that responds to stresses is the HPA axis, the autonomic nervous system, the immune system, and the cardiovascular system. Okay, heart and lungs. All right, it's turned on when we need it and it's turned off when we don't need it. Okay. When you get allostatic load, that means that the allostatic systems have been on for too long. Okay, we see wear and tear of the body. Allostatic load means you've reached a point where there is too much. Okay, your body has responded too long. Okay, this helps explain how prolonged stress can influence the cardiovascular system, heart disease, okay, as well as the immune system, and also produces things like obesity and diabetes and so on. Types of allostatic load include an increase in frequency, okay, an increase in intensity of the stressor will produce allostatic load, and also decreased inability to coordinate activation or deactivation. So you can have, if the frequency or the exposure to the stressor increases or the intensity of the stressor increases, these are all things that produce allostatic load. Okay? This is a tricky diagram. I don't expect you to pay too much attention to this. Okay? Now, home stretch, ladies. Coping with stress. Biofeedback. What do you think that is? Feedback from your biology, perhaps. This is the technique that enables us to receive information about bodily processes and learn to control physiological responses. These are the things that we saw in sleep. These are the things that we will see in a doctor's office. EEGs, blood pressure cuffs, heart rate monitors. They all give us feedback. Okay, even to a lesser degree, mood rings. Okay, what this lets us know is that basically your body will show us that you're stressing out. If you are aware of that stress, if you are aware of what your body is doing, you can control your body. You can override some of those systems and release some of the tension in your body. Okay, the dilemma is that you don't get to walk around with EEG and a blood pressure cuff and heart rate monitor with you all the time, so it doesn't usually work outside of a doctor's office or a lab setting. There's also meditation and relaxation. We know that people love this kind of stuff if they're stressed out. And it is meditation, you might remember from year 11, is the intentional attempt to bring about a deeply relaxed state. Relaxation is any activity that reduces psychological or physiological tension. Chilling out on the couch, going for a coffee with a friend. Okay. Also, you can do more specific progressive muscular relaxation stuff. Okay. Then there's also calmness, where you work on lowering your heart rate and your breathing rate and your muscle tension stuff. Okay. Some people use this in cognitive behavioral therapy. Also, ladies, this one's for you during your exam period, especially during SWOT vac and while you're on exams. Exercise. Includes all movement in everyday life, but more specifically aerobic, like running and swimming and jogging and, I don't know, cartwheeling. Sure, why not? Is better for our mental health than anaerobic, short bursts of muscle activity. So, go in the gym. But they're all good in the end, really, to be honest. Okay, why are they all good? Well, because social interaction usually comes with exercise, unless you go for a long run by yourself. Okay, but generally, if you're playing a sport or something like that, or you're going for a walk with someone else, it's good social interaction. It uses up the stress hormones. Okay, so it uses up the cortisol and the adrenaline and the noradrenaline. So you get that out of your system so your body doesn't start eating yourself. It also releases the tension in your muscles, and most importantly, it releases endorphins, pleasure-related neurotransmitters. The more you exercise, the better you feel. Fact. Okay? So if you're feeling down, you're feeling crappy, the best thing you can do is exercise. Better than chocolate. You know how much I'm addicted to chocolate. It's better than chocolate. Okay? So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like it's getting too much, then please, please, please go out and do some exercise. It's super important. Finally, social support. Help or assistance from others. You know this yourself. If you're having a stressed out time, your family or your friends can be really, really helpful in dealing with this. There are 4 different types of that. Okay, there's appraisal support. That's where there is help that improves a person's understanding of the situation. You know, that might come from a teacher or someone where they talk to you about why you're stressing out, those kinds of things, or a psychologist. There's also tangible assistance, which is actually providing support. So services, food, cash, all of those things. All right? So they're the things tangible. You can actually hold on to them and see them. Then there's informational support. How do you cope? Okay? So psychologists, sometimes teachers can help you out with strategies to cope. And finally, emotional support, which is where you look at the emotional side of things. Okay? Reassuring a person that they're cared for and that they're valued. All right? And finally, here is the biopsychosocial model dealing with stress and mental well-being. The biological factors, we have fight-flight response, we have HPA axis. You don't have to worry about the general adaptation syndrome. You do have to worry about allostasis. These are the things within our body that kick in to help us deal with stress. Okay? And we have the psychological factors, we have the transactional model, appraising and judgments. Is it stressful? Is it not stressful? We can use biofeedback. Once we are aware that our body is in a stressful state, we can do things to override it. We also have coping strategies like meditation and physical exercise, those kinds of things. And then we have the social factors like our major life events that we talked about before, also our culture and acculturation and environment and crowding. All of these things come together, and that's where you should be living in the middle, where the happy, healthy, stressed, less person is. Okay, you're not going to be there at the moment because it's exam time, but hopefully very soon afterwards you will be. That's it from me. I know this is a long video. You'll probably have to pause it a few times, hopefully watch it a few times. I hope it helps. All the best. I'll see you in class. Good luck.